Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. It's Thursday. I'm filming my Friday reads indoors because there's construction going on outside. Lots of bang, 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 bang. So this will be simpler. If you're new here, thank you so much for checking out my channel. I am here to talk about books. That's what I do. I read a lot, and I finished 8 books in the past week, so I will tell you about those. First, just a little bit about what's been going on in my life. I am still getting over COVID. It's been over 2 weeks now. I'm not contagious anymore, but my energy is not up to snuff. Fortunately, I am able to read. Yeah, that's good. I haven't been back to rowing for, it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow. But I did go and do the capsize experience on Tuesday. So this is where you go out in a single sculling boat and on purpose tip out. So you practice different ways of rescuing yourself. When we're out rowing, there is a coach boat, a safety boat, at least one, but they might not be close by, and we can be rowing in cold water conditions and in the dark too sometimes. So it's a good thing to practice in a safe situation. I was not very far from the dock, and our club manager was there. We had a safety boat close by, so I got to try different things. But after 15 minutes in the water and getting myself in and out of the boat and on the dock and so on, I was very tired. So a good indication that it's too soon for me to be going back to regular rowing. And Joni wants to say hi. Here she is. Say hello. All right. So I'm going to be going to a fiber arts retreat in the first week of September up in the Yukon. And I needed a project to work on. And I've come up with 2, and one of them I've started. It's a hat from this book that I got from the library, Knit Hats by the Woolly Wormhead. And the one that I'm making is this one. And I don't often work from charts. And this is one that uses a lot of short rows in charts. And I had to take it apart and start again because most charts that I've worked with, the first row, the bottom row is the front side. But in this case, you start on the wrong side. And yeah, when I went to bed last night, I was so confused. This morning, I figured out, that's what the problem is. Took it apart, started again. So I've got 1 repeat done. And I need to do 7 more to make the hat. We'll see how it goes. See if I have enough yarn. It's all for fun. It's okay if it doesn't work out. Yes, and I also finished the embroidery that I started over a month ago. Floral embroidery. I'll pop a picture in because it's not handy, but I'm quite happy with it. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it. Maybe just frame it and put it on the wall, or I might make it the centerpiece of a quilt, or yeah, I don't know. But while I was working on it, I did listen to a whole long stretch of an audiobook. So that is what I'm going to tell you about next. Let's get into the books. So this audiobook that I was listening to, nearly 17 hours long, is This Strange Eventful History by Claire Messud, which is on the Booker long list. The audiobook is read by Cassandra Campbell. I don't recommend it. She's an American audiobook narrator, and she uses a French accent, or Russian or Jewish, depending on the characters, because there's multi-ethnic characters in this novel, but many French people. And she puts on this French accent that was driving me nuts. It's a good thing that the story was good, but no, I didn't care for this particular rendition of the audiobook. So, the story. If you're not familiar, it is based on Claire Messud's own family history. It covers 7 decades of a French family in Algeria. So our central character is Francois, and he's a boy of 9 or 10 at the start of World War II when the book opens. And his little sister and his mom have left Salonika, Greece, where their father is stationed. He's in the French Navy, and because of the war, they go back to Algeria. The narrative thread switches to different timelines and different family members in this family: the father, the mother, his little sister Denise, and their descendants. So, as I said, it goes on for 7 decades until Francois is an old man. The geopolitical events during that time period are happening in the background, but also having a big effect on this family because the French colonists were kicked out of Algeria, and there wasn't really a place for them in France either. So these Pieds Noirs, they were called, ended up dispersing in various places. In the case of this family, the Cassar family, they went to the US, to Canada, to Australia, and that sense of dislocation about how when you're no longer able to go to the place that you call home, in their case it was Algeria, family is the home. The language is gorgeous. I transcribed some bits. So, for example, when I read a novel or watch a film, I could so often predict what would happen next. Plot felt to me inevitable, but in life, turns were not programmed or decided, and we had agency only over some small aspect of our stories. Implacable chance ruled. And I've got Kitty on my lap here. All right. There is a lot about this book that reminded me of Caledonian Road by Andrew O'Hagan, because the central character in that book, Campbell Flynn, is in many ways like Francois Cassar in this Strange Eventful History. Anyway, this is the 6th of the Booker long list titles that I have read, and I have started another one, My Friends by Hisham Matar, but I'm 30 pages in. I set it down, a few days ago, and I haven't felt like picking it back up, even though I was really enjoying it when I was reading it. It's very much in a person's head, and I feel like I would like it better in audio, especially to get through another nearly 400 pages. And I've got this other fat book for my book club that kind of takes priority. So I think I might be returning my friends to the library, and I'll get it out another time. So what else have I finished? Another one for Women in Translation Month, Anna by Mia Oberländer, and it's translated by Nika Knight, translated from German. This is about 3 generations in this German family, with Anna 1 married a very tall man, and their daughter Anna 2 is very, very tall, and Anna 2's daughter, Anna 3, you can see on the spine here, is also very tall. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek about women who don't fit in, and these long legs are quite like amazing. There's coming out of the baby buggy there. Anna 1 sits down Anna 2 in front of a television program. Things that she should know about dating. Things this woman on the television is saying are quite horrifying. You see Anna 2 has got her eyes partly covered. She's being told, don't give up hope, because in fact there are a few men out there who don't care if their partner is taller, or they even desire it. In the latter case, you should pay close attention, because these men are often not right in the head. The youngest Anna, Anna 3, her sections are in full color, and you can see the graphic design is quite striking. And those long, long legs. It's quite fun. And this was also available in Hoopla. So if your library has access to it, you might be able to read a digital edition of it. Next up is another fun one. This one is by a Canadian lesbian writer, Miriam Lacroix, How It Works Out. It's a novel told in stories about a lesbian named Miriam Lacroix and her girlfriend, Allison. And this book is dedicated to Allison. It's a bunch of different scenarios, so kind of like a multiverse. And some of these stories have elements of horror or the grotesque. There's a lot of bizarre aspects and a lot of heart and hilarity. I kept chuckling as I was reading this. So the blurbs on the back give you a good idea of the type of writing, because there's one from George Saunders, there's another one from Nana Kwame Adjei Brenya, one from Kelly Link, and so on. There's also a blurb from Tegan and Sarah. They wrote it jointly, I guess. And this Canadian musician couple appear in 2 of the stories. So, lots of fun. I have to give you a sample of the writing. And this is from the title story, How It Works Out. Ash had reserved a table at Toby's, and Allison and I had decided to go. It was Ash's birthday, and our friends would all be there. We hadn't seen anyone in a while because we were always alone with each other in our apartment, continuing the fight. "I didn't say I hate flowers, Miriam," Allison said as we walked up to Toby's. "I just don't get what the fuss is about. They're just plants as sex organs." "I am never getting you anything again," I fumed, pulling the door open. A little later, Allison says, "Whenever I think I want to travel, I just eat a croissant in a crowded place, and then I'm over it." In one of the versions, Miriam and Allison become famous because 10 years earlier, they wrote a book called How It Works Out, Building a Healthy Lesbian Relationship in the Patriarchy. And they play a lot of Boggle, which is a game that I love. So another fun one that I recommend. And I was really into short stories this week. I'm going to tell you about Fruiting Bodies by Kathryn Harlan next. This one is not a novel in stories. They're definitely individual short stories. But again, they are bizarre. There's one where a woman grows mushrooms on her body, for example, which reminded me of the Canadian author Heather Fawcett. Her collection of short stories, Swan Suit, has one with a man growing mushrooms on his body. That's the title story, by the way, Fruiting Bodies. There's one that's called The Changeling that is in the voice of a 10-year-old and her cousin. They're worried that a new baby in the family is actually a changeling. I gotta read a section from there. "I had pulled a toy out of the box and now I held it up in front of Ruth's face. 'This,' I said when she looked at me, 'is what I think fairies look like.' It was a small rubber model of an orchid mantis from a set of plastic bugs my mother had gotten me at the Science Museum. The orchid mantis was my favorite, extraordinarily delicate, with a waxy pink body fading to white at its pointed limbs and eyes like opal beads set against its skull. This is what fairies look like." I thought it made sense that fairies would be small things that crept on spindled legs sometimes instead of flying, that they would have narrow, fragile bodies and be beautiful in a way that was neither human nor comforting, sharp at all their angles and equipped with mandibles to sever the heads of their mates. Nothing magical is safe. Nothing safe is magical. I knew that from reading fairy tales. Lots of good stuff in here. Fruiting Bodies. My Lesbian Plus book club is going to be discussing this on Monday, and I look forward to talking with them about it. And next up is a book from my YA book club. It's called Dawn Raid. It's by Pauline Vaeluaga Smith, who is a New Zealand author. The author is Samoan, Tuvaluan, Scottish, and Irish. And the story is set in 1976 in a suburb of Wellington, and it's written in diary format. The diary of Sophia, who has just turned 13. Sophia's father is Samoan, and her mother is Pakeha, white. It reminded me a lot of One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams Garcia, that first book in a trilogy that's about the Gaither sisters, because that book is about the Black Panthers, and this one is about the Polynesian Panthers, a group that was inspired by the Black Panthers. There are lots of illustrations in here. The illustrator is Matt Hunkin. So, for example, she talks about Kate Shepherd, who's on the New Zealand $10 bill. She got women the vote, making New Zealand the first country in the world to do it, which made me think about how it took so long for Canada to get a woman on the front of any of our banknotes. This is Viola Desmond, who was a Black businesswoman in Nova Scotia, and in 1946 she was arrested, jailed, and fined for refusing to leave the whites-only section of a movie theater. And that event inspired her and other people to social activism and for civil rights for Black people in Canada. So it was 2018 that she became, I think, the first woman to be on the front of a banknote. Back in the early 2000s, the famous five were on the reverse side of a $50 note. The famous five were famous for having women be declared persons. That was the person's case. And so then women in Canada could vote and hold office and stuff like that. So there are politics in here because the subject is dawn raids that were going on in the mid-70s in New Zealand with people who had overstayed their working visas. And they were carried out unfairly because even though Pacific Islanders made up only about a third of the overstayers, the rest were from countries like Australia and other places, mostly white people. It was only Pacific Islanders who were being raided in the night. But her voice is so charming. So she's really, really shy, but she had to give a speech at school, and it was so good that she ended up doing it at an assembly. And after assembly, I was stoked when Mr. Carter told me my speech was really good. And then he said, I'm organizing a local school's speech competition, and I'd like you to enter for your age group. Geez, that freaked me out. Then I thought how proud Lenny was of me and how I liked it when everyone laughed. I couldn't believe it when I opened my mouth and said, yes. Oh my gosh, when will this all stop? When I got home, I watched TV. It was a big celebration because it's been 1 year since TV2 started. It's so good having 2 channels. I don't know how we managed with just one. I watched Bewitched. Tabitha's my favorite. I used to watch Bewitched when I was a kid. And I remember when we had 2 channels only, 3 channels. There was a French channel and 2 English channels. Anyway, Dawn Raid, it's for probably about age 11 and up. I think adults will get a lot out of this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And next up is another audiobook, Whalefall by Elizabeth O'Connell. This is short historical fiction. It's set in 1938, so start of World War II, and it's on an island off the coast of Wales. It's so far from the mainland that it takes 5 hours if the sea's right, to 10 hours by boat to get to the mainland. So this is a remote location, and we're seeing the world through the eyes of 18-year-old Maynard, whose mother has died sometime in the past. So she's been raising her little sister, Flinos. I only know how to say it because of the audiobook. That's that double L in Welsh. This is a reason why audiobooks are fantastic. The audiobook narrator, Gwyneth Keyworth, obviously knows how to pronounce Welsh, and there are a handful of other narrators in the audiobook edition as well, because there's short bits that are ethnographic recordings. What has happened, in addition to a whale beaching on their island, 2 people from England have come, and they are writing a paper about the people and the culture of this island. So they have hired Messud to be their assistant because her English is really good and she can translate for them, because most of the other people only speak Welsh. It's quite a atmospheric, kind of melancholy, although elegiac sort of story, because this is a way of life that is ending. And for Messud in particular, she had never had any kind of role model to give her the idea that something was possible for her besides marrying a young man from the island. And this inner change that happens in her is depicted so well, while at the same time there's a whale that's slowly disintegrating over the course of a few months while these visitors are there. It's an exquisite kind of gem of a story that reminded me a lot of Audrey McGee's The Colony. Yeah, if you like that one, I'm sure you will like Whalefall. And next is another audiobook, Sharks Don't Sink, Adventures of a Rogue Shark Scientist. And it's by Jasmin Graham. And the audiobook is read by the author. Jasmin Graham is a shark researcher, and she's so passionate about sharks and how they're misunderstood and related sea creatures in elasmobranch studies like sawfish and rays. And so she's got lots of interesting facts about sharks and a lot of detail about how researchers go about studying. She talks about her experience in academia, which was not particularly positive, partly because she's a woman and partly because she's Black. But now she's a rogue scientist. He explains what that is in this memoir. But I'm reminded of Messud in Whalefall because Jasmin Graham says that if she hadn't attended a Marine Quest science camp one summer when she was young, she would never have even had the idea that studying sharks might be a job that a person could have and be paid for. So the importance of role models was doubly impressed upon me by these 2 books that are very different from each other. Even though there is a sea creature in Whalefall as well, and lots of lobsters. One of the important things that Jasmin Graham did was she started with some other Black shark researchers a program called Minorities in Shark sciences. So MISS, M-I-S-S, to encourage minorities to get into studying sciences. I will link some information about MISS below. I find it quite inspiring that she has done this, and I like the way she talks about her mental health issues, panic attacks, and how she's dealt with that. Sometimes I felt like I was getting too much small granular details, but overall I did quite enjoy this audiobook and I recommend it. Now, my final book is one that took me over a month to read, not because it wasn't good, but because it's dense and it's got so many great passages that I just wanted to read over and over. This is Committed on Meaning and Madwomen, and it's by Suzanne Scanlon. I picked it up because Sean Breathe's Books talked about it on his channel, and I could tell that it was going to be a book that I would love. But I always come up with a plan for when a book comes into the house, the one that I've purchased, like this one, of where it's going to go next. And I decided that once I finished reading it, I would give it to my friend Amy. Except that when I finished reading it, I couldn't bear to part with it. This is going to live on my shelf of favorite books. So I bought another copy for Amy. Because this one's mine. And what is it about? It is about the author's experience in the early 90s of being hospitalized in a mental institution, a state institution in New York City for several years. She has a lot to say about language and the way that we use language. So I'll read you a section that starts with, the word madness is literary, philosophical, capacious. We know it can be romantic in literature and wretched in life. And she goes on to talk about the word madness specifically and how it's not used in modern psychiatry. And I'm also talking about crazy, another complicated word. Crazy in a pedestrian way. I was crazy when I arrived in New York City in 1992, and I became crazier in that city. I was crazy in those days much of the time, or I was acting crazy, which is what we more often mean by crazy. I don't act crazy anymore, or I am not crazy, or I never was crazy. But in many ways back then, I just couldn't help it. I think that is part of what we mean by mental illness, what you can't help. Starving yourself, or binging and purging, staying in bed all day, or staying up all night and cutting yourself. It is either excess or rigidity, and often both. Maybe it was crazy to eat a plain baked potato once a day and nothing else. Though there was a nurse on the ward who ate a package of plain rice cakes every day and nothing else. Yet because she was a nurse, she was not crazy. This same nurse described in my medical charts my bizarre eating habits. It was crazy how I ate and didn't eat. If I were my own mother, I would have seen that. But that was the point, I think. My mother. Where was she? The best the word crazy can do is point to something on the surface, a symptom. It is not the story. If you are interested in mental health, I highly, highly recommend committed. Excellent. And that is all I've got for you today. So thank you so very much for watching. I always appreciate hearing from you. So I hope that you will say hello in the comments section down below and let me know if you're interested in any of these books. Have you read any of them? Tell me your news. Tell me what you're reading. I'll be seeing you soon because I have got a couple of non-Friday Reads videos being planned in the works. One has to do with the best CanLit books, and I'm going to tie that into Women in Translation. Month of August is not over yet, so I'm going to talk about the French language books that were on that, the best 67 CanLit books of the 21st century list that I did with Jolene. That is coming up. And I am also hoping to do a Framed in September TBR. So watch for that as well. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.